What I would like to hear is how loud can we be when we say, no T-SPLOST? No T-SPLOST! That's good. You're going to have to remember that. We've got some work to do, and I am not the GOP chairman when I'm standing up here for this rally. Because I have an axe to grind with our governor, and I'm going to speak my mind about it.
You won't take that. Have to swing by and get it.
The problem with the T-SPLOST is that it is so unfair to everyone that is a hard-working taxpayer of any county in this state. And that's the first thing I need you guys to remember. This T-SPLOST vote is not about just Rockdale. It is going on in every one of the 159 counties in Georgia. And we have got to network with every one of those people. If you've got people down in Coney County or Ware County. Okay, Ware County, that works. If the more you network, this is one of those things, you tell two friends and they tell two friends. We've got to get this defeated across the entire state because our next action that we ask for when the General Assembly goes back in is to repeal the TIA and HB 277. That's not going to happen if part of this passes in one of the regions. And that's the way this thing is set up. It's set up by 12 regions throughout the whole state. Some counties have 10, some regions have 10, some have 12 or 13 counties. Either way, the taxpayers in all of those counties are not going to have a fair voice to oppose any new taxes or eminent domain when their property gets taken, or any of the above because of the new layer of government that's being put in. That's the 800-pound gorilla that's behind the T-SPLOST, and that's what you're here to stop. The first speaker of today is going to be our second best speaker. And at this time, I would like to bring up Steve Brown, County Commissioner from Fayette County, part-time commissioner, I believe, and a strong advocate against the T-SPLOST. Steve Brown.
You know, we got a lot of people that are working really hard to defeat this thing. This is my 7th stop this week. I've done one just for about every day. I've done a couple 2-day things, but let me tell you, if you read the last poll, the supporter report, they said that the support for the SPLOST has gone up 4 points. Gone down 4 points, and the opposition has gone up about 3.5. So it's turning around, and it's just a matter of getting the facts into people's hands. And the one thing that you're going to have to really pay attention to is a lot of people are going to buy the hype. They're going to listen to all those advertisements. Jennifer Leslie, who's a reporter for 11 Alive, she came up to me and she said, the other side's got $8 million. How much money have you all collected? You know, I'm with the Traffic Leadership Coalition. And I said, well, we've got our vocal cords and the leather on the bottom of our shoes. And we use it to the fullest extent possible. And that's what we literally have to do. We are fighting a special interest battle. There are people who are going to make a tremendous amount of money off of some of these projects. There is $8 billion in the pot here. And a lot of people want to divide that $8 million up and use it to their benefit. Now, the one thing that we've got to pay attention to, and I'll put this over here and do this. You can kind of tell what's going on in the government if you just look at one page of the newspaper. This is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's the Thursday, July 12th edition. This was the day I went to the AJC debate, and it tells you the whole thing right here. The top says, that the state of Georgia is in 4th place in terms of the amount of foreclosures across the United States. So we're in dire straits in the state of Georgia. You don't want to start taxing people unless they're definitely going to get something out of it. The one right next to it says, the Federal Reserve is so worried about our national economy right now that they're about to take some serious steps to try to pump it up yet again. Now, the big article right here with the picture is the city of Atlanta has decided to spend $4 million on a single piece of art for the airport. That is the major conflict that we're experiencing today. At the same time that the city of Atlanta says they can't afford $40,000 to synchronize traffic lights in downtown Atlanta that would drastically help reduce traffic congestion, they're spending $4 million on a piece of art in the airport. Now, they can't do a lot of other projects in the city of Atlanta that would help reduce traffic congestion, not without our money, they say, but they're going to build a brand new stadium, one that we have not even paid for the old one yet. And they want to spend billions of dollars on this stadium. I like football just like anybody else does. But you know what? Arthur Blank's a billionaire. And if Arthur Blank wants a new stadium, I'd like to see Arthur Blank chip in a few bucks and build his own stadium. That's what they did in Texas. But let me give you a few interesting concepts too. This whole thing, how did it get started? How did we get to where we are today? Why are we standing here? What was the genesis of this? And I'm going to tell you, it all has to do with MARTA. Yes. MARTA was a system that was created, and I'm going to say under good intentions. They wanted to help people get around. They wanted to help poor populations get around. They wanted to help people get to activity centers and jobs. It's a noble goal. The only problem is it doesn't work. And it's very, very expensive. And along the line there, as they were paying those years and years of taxes, dating back to the 70s, all of a sudden they realized that the cost kept escalating and the ridership either stayed the same or, like it has done in the last 10, 15 years, it's declined. It's totally subsidized. You know, the fares only account for about 20 to 25% at most of handling those services. So what happens when you're losing billions of dollars as a transit system? What are you going to do? Well, you've got to look, you either start closing down routes, MARTA has done that, or you start looking for other sources of revenue. And ladies and gentlemen, you are the other sources of revenue. We in Fayette County are the other sources of revenue. And if you don't think this is true, Ed Wall, who was the then CEO of the MARTA board, he made this comment back in 2006 when they started the Transit Planning Board. This is what started the whole T-SPLOST movement, the Transit Planning Board. That's the Gwinnett Express, CCT, and Cobb. It was the Clayton County bus system when they had it, MARTA. All of these systems got together. DOT, the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority were all on this. They all got together and created the Transit Planning Board. And here's what Ed Wall, then chairman of MARTA, told them. The only way we're going to get additional support in the state of Georgia is to get the 28 counties that make up metropolitan Atlanta, not just Fulton and DeKalb counties, all clamoring for mass transit. And that was the goal. We need to get a plan in place and make Fayette County actually believe that they need a heavy rail train. We need to get a plan in place that makes Rockdale County actually think that they need huge bus rapid transit systems running through their area, even though Fayette County and Rockdale County are the two lightest counties in terms of population in the entire metropolitan Atlanta area. I've studied land planning and transportation for the past 20 years, especially in metropolitan Atlanta. And let me tell you, they came up with a plan called Concept 3. It had buses and trains and everything all over the metropolitan Atlanta counties. And I looked at what they had in Fayette County. We had a heavy rail train coming into Fayette County. We had all these bus systems going zigzagging all through the county. And I looked at this and I said, we only have 107,000 inhabitants. A great deal of those are senior citizens and children. We cover 200 square miles. So in front of an audience, I asked the Atlanta Regional Commission transportation planner, a man by the name of David Haynes, and I said, David, I don't think I could find a transportation planner worth their salt who would say that these projects in Fayette County are anywhere near justified. How can you justify spending that kind of money for such little benefit? And you know what he said, ladies and gentlemen? I can't justify it. So then you ask the next question. Well, why are the projects in Fayette County? And he wouldn't answer the question. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the problem. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and they're not telling you how they're going to, what's going on and what the intentions are. One of the things you need to know about, and you need to tell your people, if you've got a neighbor or a relative or somebody who says, I'm in favor of the T-SPLOST, dadgummit, because it's time to do something, and it's finally, we've got to do something for traffic, it's getting too much, we can't handle it, we're all going to fail, they do chicken little stories, and say, well, do you think the trains are the answer? Do we need to implement the trains? And they say, yes, that's the answer, that's the answer. Then you tell them, well, they're only half funded in the T-SPLOST, you won't get them. That's what you need to tell them, that's the truth. When I tell people, I went to DeKalb County and spoke to a group, and there was a little woman there, and she said, I have to have that train, Mr. Brown. If I don't have that train, I won't be able to get to the hospital. I won't be able to go see my friends. I may not be able to go to the grocery store. And I said, ma'am, I understand exactly what you're saying. Too bad the train won't be built in the T-SPLOST. It's just a $20 million plan that they're creating for the Clifton Corridor. It's not an actual train. So you need to tell the people this. This is the truth. Now the other part is, MARTA right now is approaching $3 billion in red ink by the end of the decade for maintenance. That's billion with a B. $3 billion. Beverly Scott, who's the general manager of MARTA, said in the AJC, I have no earthly idea how we're going to pay that $3 billion. That should be a red flag, right? That should raise our awareness just a little bit. When somebody says, I've got a $3 billion debt and I have no idea how I'm going to pay it. Not only this, but they're losing $500,000 a year for the last several years just on operations. What is the answer? The T-SPLOST people will say, well, the answer is, let's make it bigger. It makes no sense. Now, who's going to fund the current red ink and the expanded red ink from the expanded transit system? And guess what? I've asked the governor's policy director, I've asked Speaker of the House David Ralston, I've asked Todd Long from the DOT, and do you know what the answer is? We don't have any idea how we're going to pay those expenses. We've got expenses being incurred in the billions of dollars on these transit programs. We're going to expand and escalate those expenses, and we have not a clue how we're going to pay for it. This is the Nancy Pelosi recipe for how to get something through and build your constituents. We're going to pass the projects, and then we're going to tell you how we're going to pay for it later. And that's exactly what they're going to do. And your people need to know this. When you're emailing and you're calling your folks and telling them to get out and vote, they need to know. Billions of dollars of debt, no earthly idea how we're going to pay for it. It's very important that we get that out there. One of the things that fascinates me the most, there's a state senator, Fran Miller. He's a Republican. He's from Dunwoody in DeKalb County. DeKalb County, of course, being one of the MARTA counties. And this is what he had to say about the MARTA system. Senator Miller is on the MARTOC committee. That's the oversight committee that keeps an eye on MARTA and their systems and watches how they work. Right now, this transit system is set up, right now the way this system is set up is doomed for failure. The only way we are going to succeed is to broaden the base because everyone benefits. And what he's saying is, we've got something right now, a $6 billion transit system that Beverly Scott says is only operating at 30% of capacity. It's a proven failure. It is not producing what they said it would produce. And Senator Miller's point is we need to broaden the base. Let me define what broaden the base means. We need to make everybody else pay for it to keep up for our losses. Now the problem is, these type of transit systems, it's central planning. It's the government setting up its own transportation system from the ground up. Now everybody says, well, wait a minute, doesn't the government set up the roads? Absolutely they do. and the citizens pay a gas tax to keep those roads going. But who rides on those roads? It's entirely free enterprise, open commerce on those roads. It is not the case with transit. Everything with the transit is controlled by the government. The problem with that is you have to get into collective bargaining with all the employees, because if you take federal money, the federal government mandates that you go into collective bargaining agreements. That automatically escalates your price well beyond anything that the private sector is going to offer. They control how many routes you're going to run, how many people you're going to hire, and you know what? Every one of those decisions has nothing to do with the effectiveness of how the system operates and the effectiveness of how they meet time schedules and everything else. It has nothing to do with it. Now, let's take an example. Have you heard of Megabus? The private bus system. There's a private bus system called Megabus. They started up in the northeastern United States, up into the upper Midwest. They've worked their way down to Georgia, and they're going as far south as Denver and Salt Lake. Private bus company. And you'd say, my gosh, that's all we need is another private bus company. But they come out here, and you make your reservation on the bus, on the internet. You show up for the fare of $2.50, and they'll lose $500 million. That's the difference between central planning, mass transit, and private enterprise. And why we are not looking at more private options in terms of moving people around. In Buford Highway in DeKalb County, there are 2 Hispanic bus systems that operate in Buford Highway. Now here's the kicker. MARTA also operates on Buford Highway. So you'd say, well, wait a minute. There's no way a subsidized bus system paid for and almost entirely by the government in one form or fashion, how that private bus system can compete with that subsidized system. There's just no way that can happen. And here's the thing. Those private bus companies had the audacity to research their customer base, to find out where they live, to find out where they work, to find out what their hours were, to find out what shift change hours would be. And they created a system that actually worked for the consumer. Oh my gosh. Now, does MARTA do that? No way. They don't care. They're just operating a system. They don't have an outcome. They don't have an incentive to be more efficient and create a profit. So what they're doing essentially is the Hispanic bus systems are filling their buses up, and they're running people back and forth to work and back all the way home, shopping, everywhere else, and the MARTA buses are running right beside them empty. And that's the kind of system we've got. But you know, here's something else. The telecommuting. Does anybody know what telecommuting is? Yeah. Telecommuting is taking your computer and working from home. And you can do it if you're a paralegal, if you're in the accounting business. There are all sorts of professions where you can work on that file just as easily on your home computer as you could at the office. More people in Atlanta telecommute than ride mass transit. 7% of the commuters telecommute. Less than 5% ride transit. What does telecommuting cost you, ladies and gentlemen? It costs you $0 as a taxpayer. Now, why aren't the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, the Rockdale County Chamber of Commerce, the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce, why aren't they incentivizing telecommuting for businesses? Why are they going to the legislature and saying, you know what, for just a modest incentive, we could probably get more people to telecommute, and we could take more people off the roads than a $6 billion transit system is doing. And we're doing it right now. Why can't we do something like that? Why can't we go to the Chamber of Commerce and say, why don't we look at flex hours? Why do we all have to work 9 to 5? Why can't somebody come in at 6 and leave at 3? Or come in later, come in at 10 and leave later? The incentives are there. That costs us nothing to do. And there are so many of these corporations and these CEOs who are saying that we're in the midst of a crisis and Atlanta's going to fail if we don't pass this plan, but they won't get off their butts and do any of these little simple things that wouldn't cost you, the taxpayer, a dime. And would make more gains than what we're spending on the tax money. 52% of all the SPLOST money, that's $3.2 billion. Now here's the other argument. Let me break off on this. Here's the other argument that you're going to hear. Well, we've got to start somewhere. We've got to do something. You know, I know it's not a good list, but, you hear that all the time. Let me tell you how bad it is. $3.2 billion, 52% of the entire SPLOST proceeds is going into a mode of transportation and transportation projects that will only serve 1.8% of Atlanta commuters. 1.8. The entire list of transit projects on the list only will accommodate, according to their records, and we think those are bloated, but we're using their records because it's just as bad. But according to their records, only 74,800 riders would be taken off the road after we spent $3.2 billion. Now, those 74,800, you have to divide that by 2, and that gives you 35,000 because you drive up to work and you drive back. So it's only one car, one person that you're taking off the road. So we're spending 52%, $3.2 billion, or 1.8% of all AM/PM drive time commuters. Is that an effective use of your tax dollars? We should be screaming about this. If I came up to you in Rockdale County and I said, you know what? I'm raising your taxes for recreation. It's going to be a hefty increase. And guess what? I'm only going to direct 52% of the money, just something to this little group of about, with Rockdale's population, that group might be 2,000 people. 52% of the proceeds will just go to benefit this small little group, and you should be ecstatic about voting about it. You guys will be tearing the county commission building down to the ground brick by brick. But this is so much worse. I mean, these are things that we really need to get these projects out here and tell people what's going on. But the interesting thing is, you need to tell them this too. They're going to say, and this is your argument, they're going to say, well, wait a minute. The Atlanta Regional Commission has a model, and the model says we get $4 to every $1 we invest. That's the economic value of the T-SPLOST if we prove it. We get a 4-to-1 benefit. And man, if you tell somebody you get a 4-to-1 benefit, that's a great deal. If I got that on the stock market, I'd do it in a heartbeat. So, what's the real story? Well, the real story is they've measured the benefits of the transit out to the year 2040. But the other part of the coin is they didn't extend the costs of the operations and the maintenance for the projects out but 10 years. So they have fudged the model. We have caught them in this. We got them in front of the news. They had to admit. They said, we're going to create 200,000 jobs. 200,000 jobs. We should all be ecstatic. The AJC PolitiFact said that's absolutely not true. They couldn't prove it. They couldn't substantiate it. Now, let me give you some figures that they gave you in 2000. In 2000, MARTA said that there would be a ridership increase on their bus system. And these are things that you need to know and need to tell people. In the year 2000, they said by 2025, we would experience a 70% ridership increase on MARTA without adding a single bus. Now, obviously, if you've read the newspaper or done any research at all, you'll know we're heading in the negative direction. We're not even at 0.9%. We're going negative in terms of ridership. This is government at work, ladies and gentlemen. They lie to you, and they lie to you, and they lie to you. And they try to get people to believe these grandiose numbers. And you know what? This is really planning negligence. And I've told the people who put this model together, who came up with these numbers, because there is not a system in the United States of America that can come close to producing the numbers, not even half of the numbers that they are predicting that we were going to get in 2025. So you need to point this out to people. Don't let them buy the hype. It's nice to see that little knotted street ball unwind and everybody goes ooh and ah and man, that's what I need. I need to relieve the stress of my traffic. It's not going to do a doggone thing for them. So, one thing I would say is when you're competing with other communities like Texas and Charlotte, they always say Dallas, Texas is who we're competing against, and Charlotte's who we're competing against. And, if we don't do this, they're going to wipe us out. Well, let me just tell you, the CNBC did report on the states that were best for business. And guess where Georgia came out in transportation and infrastructure? Number 3 out of 50 in the United States. They're going to tell you that, I got the sheet here, they're going to tell you that we are really doing badly in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. We're going to get killed. Dallas is just zooming. Charlotte, they're just taking off. This is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, March 21st, 2012. The headline is, Metro Atlanta, number 2 in job growth. We were number 2 of all cities over population of 1 million. Then the other one is, April 27th, 2012, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Jobs picture is best since January 2009. We are eclipsing some of the cities that they say are going to eat our lunch if we don't pass this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make huge profits. The engineering industries, the cement industries, the asphalt industries, the people who build the roads all have a stake in this. They've all been hurt by the economy, and they all want a big stake of this huge pie. And they're selling you a bunch of hype that doesn't jive with anything that the studies, that the media reports show, and I hope you'll get out there and let everybody know. You've got an email list. I hope you've got at least 20 friends on your email list that you can email. You've got neighbors. If you want to go to traffictruth.net on the internet, go to traffictruth.net, print out their fact sheet for just a minimal amount of money. You can print out a bunch of those, give them to all your close friends and neighbors. Give them to your friends at church, everybody. Give them those sheets. The facts speak for themselves. So once you get that stuff in there, put the word out. A lot of people are voting early. I don't know what it's like in Rockdale, but in Fayette, they're showing up in record numbers in terms of early voting this year. So do not wait till the 29th and start advertising no on T-SPLOST. You've got to start doing it as soon as you get home. But I hope you'll do it. I appreciate you having me. I've got a ton of facts on this stuff. We have been researching it like crazy. At the AJC debate, they actually brought in a hired gun from the Brookings Institute to debate against us, and we tied him up in knots. Literally tied him up in knots. Because he could not defend anything. He was speaking in platitudes, and that's what you need to be careful of. Everything will be wonderful. All your problems will be solved. We will fail if it doesn't work. Don't buy that crap. Don't buy it. Make them prove it. So anyway, thank you so much. Good luck to you. Get the word out, and let's do what we can. Yeah, that's a very good question. The question was, who's paying for all those ads? You know, the $8 million worth of advertisement on TV and radio and the mail and everything? And you know what the answer is? We don't know, because they won't disclose who's paying. And it's because there's a lot of special interests that are behind all of this. But here's the thing, TrafficTruth.net, the Traffic Leadership Coalition, we filed as a state LLC, and we have made 2 filings. We made everything we've done extremely transparent. Now, this Untie Atlanta thing, you know, that does all the commercials, this LLC, they filed as a local county ballot initiative. Now, what's the difference? Well, they're saying because they applied as a local county ballot initiative, they only have to file who's paying into their fund 15 days before the day before the election. And they're going to pray nobody's watching when they let the list go. But that is what's happening. They're not transparent at all. And that's one thing you need to bring up as well. Thank you for bringing that up. Because if it's such a great deal, why aren't you telling people that you're supporting this cause, right? And I need to say too, Cox newspapers, you know, the AJC, they have put $250,000 in a fund to support the T-SPLOST. So when somebody cites an AJC article to you and says, wait a minute, look at this article, you need to bring it up. I have to point out, they spent $250,000 towards this cause, and you just need to be aware of that. Not that the article is biased in any way, you'd have to do it on a case-by-case basis, but you need to point that out, because that's just what you're supposed to do.
Okay, thank you, Steve. before I get into, and we bring up our next speaker, would like to point out that elected officials cannot officially declare where they are as far as the T-SPLOST. However, for any of those that haven't noticed, some of the campaigns are still here, and some of the elected officials that are still here, I think that sort of speaks for itself.
Why can't they?
As elected officials, as I understand it, they are not allowed to take an official position.
Can I give you a word on that? As a private citizen, Steve Brown can say anything he wants to say. And as long as I'm not spending Fayette County dollars on coming here to speak to you, as long as I'm driving on my own vehicle, my own gas, I can say anything I want to say. So that's one thing you need to bring up to your folks. The First Amendment does not stop when you enter political office. You just cannot use municipal or county money to fund that opinion. That's the rule.
And that sort of goes for why Chairman Odom shouldn't be out there putting up his campaign signs using the company vehicle.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, the elected officials that are still here, I think their support sort of speaks for itself, and I hope you guys recognize that. Because there is some elected officials that I don't necessarily care a great deal about at the moment. And the first one on that list is our governor. Our governor has been publicly supporting and pushing the T-SPLOST behind the scenes at the Gold Dome. Has been asking David Ralston and Casey Cagle to do what they had to do to get the HB 277 passed, and they did try to move the T-SPLOST vote to the November ballot. That was our first big fight. Unfortunately, we didn't jump in the fight soon enough. We didn't stop this from happening in the first place. But to Governor Deal, I hope he enjoys his term in office, because I personally am going to do whatever I can to make sure it's his only term. We do have a couple other speakers. One is, I don't know what, is Brian here? Okay. Now what I want to do, and bear in mind, this is a nonpartisan event, but what I would like to do right now, much to the shock of a lot of you, I'm going to bring Garvin Haynes up here to talk about the Rockdale County numbers for a few minutes.
Hey folks.
Hello.
I have to just say a thing or two. I certainly think we got some good information about what's happening in the 10-county area. But what I've been trying to do is focus on the facts that deal with us here in our own county. And I'm going to tell you something. I have been asked, just to give you an example, for the sometime next month, and I guess if I say this, it might not happen, but to get a Lifetime Achievement Award as a Democrat. And I am very happy to do so. However, I feel betrayed by our chairman of our county, for the citizens of our county. And when I say that, I'm going to give you some numbers. These numbers come from the Elections Board that identifies the items for every and all of the 10 counties. One of the items gives all of the counties 15% of their money to spend basically ever how they want to spend it. In the 2004 law change dealing with SPLOST, you had to identify what you were going to spend the money on to the citizens. And then you had to do it.
Right, right.
That was the law. That is the law. That is not the law in this case.
Right.
So I'm going to use the 15% we are expected to be able to spend in Rockdale County, which is to equal a minimum of $24 million. If you got calculators, you can do it. But that is to say, Rockdale County citizens will be spending $160 million. $160 million based on that math. You want to know what we're going to get for it?
Yeah.
3 items that are actually important to Rockdale County. Sigmund Road being 4-lane. A non-access bridge down by Courtesy Ford, because it's the cheapest place and the most logical place it should have been done to start with. Widening of FLAT Shoals Road from 162 to Old Salem Road. That'll help us. That cost the 11.5 million, the overpass 25.9, and Sigmund Road 30 million. There's a fourth item. When the citizens of this county some of them were called to make ideas known what we wanted. They all said, we do not want Hayden, Q-U-A-R-Y, Hayden Quarry Road on the list. This is a small 1-lane dirt road from DeKalb County going through Abbott's area that will enable the citizens of DeKalb County to get to the Sigmund Road exit to hit I-20. Except our part of the funding of that is $11.4 million. So the chairman didn't take the advice of our own citizens. He made a deal with the chairman of DeKalb County with our money. If you back out that $11.4 million, you're going to get 52 cents on the dollar for what you're going to get out of that $160 million. Can you afford that? Can Rockdale afford that? I can tell you I serve and have served in numerous things. I know there are needs that are going to be needed in this county for years to come. And some of them very soon. I'm only going to throw you out one example. EPD has gave us 10 years to take package plants off on the south side. 10 years. The deadline is 2015. I have documentation through open records that says that if you give me a darn good reason, we might give you one more year. That is a $40 million item. Rockdale citizens, how are you going to pay for that? You're going to pay for it through your water bill, or you're going to pay for it through a future SPLOST. That's how you're going to pay for it. Because they're not giving us any more time. They will put a consent order on us. If this passes, and we have to go out and go for another SPLOST, I don't care if it's for the package plants or paving or anything else that we, the citizens of Rockdale County, say that we want to do, we will then be asking our citizens to pay 8%. How easy is that going to be? Hell, we just gave away $80 million. We ought to be able to afford it. Why not just go on up to 8? We're so charitable. Charity begins at home. And that's why you should vote no on this T-SPLOST. voted down, maybe the politicians at the State House will do and have the character necessary to find the funding and other means to take care of the other issues that are truly beyond the scope of what some counties may be able to afford to do. We shouldn't be paying for state highways, etc. on our T-SPLOST.
Amen.
Okay? We shouldn't be paying for maintenance for a bus service in some other county for 20 years.
No.
We shouldn't be paying for escalators for more maintenance or pathways for elsewhere. If we was to say no, our SPLOST ends in 2016. We need to be formulating our own SPLOST now. And these are the same items. If we beat this SPLOST, we can fund ourselves in the future. And so will all the other things. And I want y'all to know, this came directly from the elections office. The numbers came from the citizens that sat down with Mr. Odom that identified what each one of these things would cost. I'm giving you the background of my information. The red signs. I formed a local organization just as Mr. Brown said the other group had done. They are supposed to file 45 days before the election and 15 days prior to the election. Okay? So my filing will be Monday. Because I got a late start, I didn't spend any money or get any money in between that time period. But they've been raising money for months. They should have filed 45 days ago.
That's right.
Somebody should have already taken them to the ethics board. But I'm going to tell you this, the thing that makes me the maddest is that the local politicians aren't telling us the truth about what benefits us and have betrayed us in trying to convince us to vote this T-SPLOST as something good for Rockdale. And I say, it is not true, and please vote no.
Thank you, Garvin. Okay, now the main event we've all been waiting for. Josie Dean.
How y'all doing today?
Great.
I just thank God for being here, and I just thank us for being on one accord. When they say Republicans, Democrats, and blacks and whites don't get along, this is one thing that brought us together.
Yes.
And for that, we need to thank God that we don't came together. Because one thing about it, some people keep saying that we don't need God. See, one thing don't make the United States fall, we don't forget where we came from. We don't forget who started this great country. I'm a black woman and I love flags. I say my people must have made the flag, because every time I look around, they don't give me number stuff for flags. So that's why I'm standing up here today as a person of color saying, hell no, we can't afford it. We have been tricked and we have been tricked, and they get mad with me. That's why I was basically ran out to DeKalb County. Because I'm doing the same thing I'm doing here. I'm letting the people know of color. They are tricking us. And we use our own people to enslave and trick each other. And then when we come and we say no, they're tricking us. Oh, you can't pay no attention to that Josie Dean. She crazy, she this. But guess what? Everything that crazy woman said on Glenwood, the crazy lady had the hanging babies and all that stuff, the Confederate flags, guess what? Everything that crazy woman said don't came to pass.
Yep.
So see, sometimes people call you crazy, they gotta belittle you to make people not pay attention to what we're saying. So don't worry about they saying you're crazy. Don't worry about they saying you're a Republican. I said, look what color I am. Hell, I got some white in me, so maybe I do got some Republican. Then start with Republicans. You know, so you keep forgetting where the foundation of the United States came from. You know, see, y'all don't understand understand they keep saying our country. This is the only country I have. I don't have another country. So if I don't fight for what's right for my country, where else I'm going? Nobody else wants me. So we're going to have to say no to this SPLOST. We cannot afford no more money. Yeah. You know, I went and used this little white lady needed some tobacco. She needed some food. It was amazing how we went and we had to get this lady food. And it was just like it was a third world country. It was a little white lady in Rockdale County. It's hungry. And we gave those little white kids pieces. You would thought you had gave them kids $1 million. This right here in Rockdale County. These are white kids in Rockdale County, and white people in Rockdale County is hungry. They're not telling y'all these people hungry. So we cannot afford. The lady from the common ground called me and did a story on me. She asked me, what are we doing our 7% sales tax? Why are Rockdale County not paying their portion, and why do they not want to pay their portion for the SPLOST? I said, because Rockdale County got sense. Why go build a cow? The cow already there. All we got to do is do like we do and kick the bus and go right over there and let the cab county keep paying for everything. And now they don't rob the cab county, Fulton County, and the cab, now they coming to us and say, all right, we don't rob them. Now we got to come and get y'all. Y'all got a march of black people coming over there now, so we don't rob them, so they already know how to be robbed. But one thing I think about y'all people in Rockdale County, y'all ain't taking back. And y'all ain't going to build no another city and a city hood here. We don't ran out of land. We can't run. So we're going to have to stand up with each other. We're going to have to keep fighting. We're going to have to look beyond each other's color, each other present, how we present stuff. I'm not an A student, never pretend to be one. I'm an FD Mountain. But yet it's still God had to take this FD Mountain to ask for all these educated people. I thought you had to be smart to be politicians. These are the most dumbest people I ever seen. You know, I was an F- in math, and I'm just like, well, I know what 2 and 2 put together. I said, what they coming up with? They got some math that we ain't never heard of. So they must be getting their own math together. So we as citizens of Rockdale County, we gonna stand up and we gonna make a difference. And do you know what they gonna do when we beat them, which we gonna beat them? It's gonna send a message to these politicians, we're not going forward. Richard Olson, them little bitty kids didn't even know what they was coming to protest against us about. That was a tactic from him. They gave $8 million for the SPLOST. That was part of that $8 million. I asked them they go get Josie and Young. They would have got all the old civil rights leaders to fool these people. And all the young civil rights people say, hold up. Joseph Myra, you one step from death, you better try to get together. You coming on your last days to entrap your people to captivity before you die for some money? Andrew's young, and I asked the question, what was they, how we gonna get there? They ain't told them boys that they ain't have nail rally enough to tell these black boys to pull up their clothes. They ain't told them had nail rally to come up and say, what do y'all stop robbing and killing? How we gonna build something now and we scared to go down there because we may get killed on the bus before we get there? So I'm just saying, come on, we got to tell the truth about this story. You know, where's the money for your protection? They ain't said nothing about your protection. It's gonna take half of the money to make sure we protect you. So all that money they're trying to do for this T-SPLOST is a game. And I thank God and I thank people in Rockdale County that we're not stupid. And they know we're not stupid. And guess what? They got to have little Rockdale County. They've been trying to get Rockdale County a long time. But Rockdale County been smart enough not to let them take us. So for that, we gonna say no to SPLOST. So tell all your people, and they people, we say no. And give them the reason we can't afford it. If we gonna go 1% again, let us go for ourselves and let us put it in Rockdale County.
I told you she was the main attraction. Thank you, Josie. We've got a couple more speakers to go here. This time, I would like to bring up Chris Vaughn.
I was praying it was somebody else because I didn't want to follow Josie. But I just want to, I'm going to keep mine very as brief as I can and just put out a couple points. I was here Tuesday and God bless you. I just thought it was hilarious. You got called down by the police for your megaphone. She was out there just fighting. It is amazing how there's so many times a double standard. There's a standard for those who are for things, and there's a standard for those who are against things. And the no T-SPLOST people had to get a permit just to make sure we were legal, but the pro T-SPLOST didn't have to get anything. They were allowed. And that is wrong when there's a double standard. And part of it, the reason, I had a conversation, this is about 2 years ago with someone, and they were in the Department of Transportation. We were talking about all the things, and I just looked at him then. And this is before anything was said. I said, can I tell you something? I said, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where I grew up since I was about 10 to about 11 years ago, 11 and a half. I said, all my life I've heard rail. We got to have high-speed rail to Raleigh. Got to have some high-speed rails. Going to create jobs, help with transportation. I said, when they finally got it, it's going to cost me about the same money for me to drive it. It's going to take the same time for me to drive it. I've got to pay a cab or something to get me to the train station and then rent a car in Raleigh once I get there. I said, please tell me the benefit of a rail. And this is the Georgia guy. He said, well, I said, I'm sorry. I said, we don't have the people for it. We don't have the condensed population for it. I said, I've heard rail my whole life. I said, please tell me why we need rail in Georgia. Then he went through this little kind of paraphrase. Well, there's some things that it'll help and all that. I said then, I say now, T-SPLOST is one reason when 52% of it goes to other projects than transportation, roads, it is an end round to get money into rail and into MARTA, which is not what it's being sold as, which is the main reason I do not like it. Who in here would agree we need some help in Atlanta for roads and transportation? Raise your hand. I haven't met anybody yet who doesn't agree with that. I haven't met anybody yet who truly would say if they knew the penny tax would go to the roads, that they're not willing to pay it. Everybody I've met would say, well, I'm not, but now we're painted as this incredibly insane, anti-governmental, no tax whatsoever. I'm a fair tax guy. I like the fair tax. I think we ought to just make everybody pay a certain part. I don't mind that. But when the projects are not going to what they say, I don't know about y'all. Did y'all know that transportation issues are so bad in Georgia and Atlanta that we need excessive walking trails? Did y'all know that walking is a transportation issue? There are evidently thousands of walkers congested all across in metro Atlanta. It is so bad that we need to take tax dollars and apply it. There's not only those tragic problems, there's also dog walking right now. That is a tragic tragedy of transportation issues. And of course, we know there's probably poop issues along with that. And that has to be dealt with. That's why we need these money. But see, that's what we're told. We're told that I haven't met anybody. The other reason why I am so adamant against it is one of the reasons why, and this was at a meeting, I got to read the legislation. Now, I'm talking to a lady not long ago, we were talking about taxes, 999 fair taxes. She goes, I don't like that because it'll make my taxes go up as a senior citizen. So we started talking the actual figures and how that might work. But all of a sudden, now she's for T-SPLOST. And I want to look at her and say, hey, that's going to make her taxes go up regardless. Not just income tax, not just any other tax. It's going to make everything you buy in this area go up by 1%. Well, we need it. We need it. I looked at her, I said, ma'am, do you know the legislation allows the bureaucratic bureaucracy to create debt? Well, I didn't know that. I said it allows them to create debt, but it does not give the remedy for who pays the debt. And I said, who do you believe will pay the debt? I said it would be every homeowner in Rockdale County or Henry County or Fayette County or whatever county. I said, and secondly, the projects are funded for 10 years. I said, so we're not even sure how we're going to pay for it in 11 years. I said, do you not? She goes, well, they've said they're not going to go into debt. Now, no offense, okay? I'm running for Congress. Y'all know that. I mean, and here and stuff, there's a number of people who are running for offices. I mean, you need to make sure politicians stay honest and true and right to what they say. And if you have legislation that gives the ability to create debt, Who in here believes they will create it? Because we can always pay for it some other way, we can always give it some other time. And that is the main reason I detest it. It gives no remedy to the local municipality, and it gives a lot of authority to a bureaucrat who's not elected, who will not be held to office. And I don't mean this wrong. Who in here knows that the DeKalb CEO could care less what Rockdale thinks? Because we're never going to vote him out of office. But yet if he can appoint people who are there serving, then those people will never have any concern for us. And that is wrong. That is my opinion. And now that's why I would ask you to vote against. Now here's the other thing you hear. And I've heard this many times. We got to do something. Dear God, we got to do something. Now how do you know that tragedy and fear are two of the greatest selling tactics you can use to somebody? I sold security systems one time years back, and I had somebody tell me, they said, man, said, you can scare somebody bad enough, you can sell a security system. And that's true. There's only 2 times you ever buy a security system. It's either now, when you want to, or the day after you get held up. And I used that line to a guy one time, a good friend of mine. I just said that to him, and guess what? He didn't buy one that day, but his little insurance office got held up, so he bought one the next day. So everybody understands there's a reason, there's a need, but we're told this is the only option. There's other options out there. There's other plans. I heard many of them last week at the Gwinnett GOP. There's many other options available. But General George S. Patton had a great quote. He said, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. But how do you know that a good plan today is one that has long-term visibility, long-term goals, and a plan to finish it? And a plan that says we need a tax for 10 years. But, you know, sorry, I got my hands tied. 10 years. A plan that is for 10 years, but has debt and projects that go beyond that is not a good plan. That's what you need to tell people. And I want to ask this, who in here wants to pay more? I so appreciated Josie Tuesday. People just cannot afford continual taxation without knowing that they're going to get what they're saying they're getting. You ought to look at somebody everybody you can and tell them no T-SPLOST. Take some heat for it. Take a little bit of aggravation for it. Let people know it's not the panacea that everybody says. Who in here truly, which I know we're biased, believes that if we get it, it's going to fix everything? And if MARTA hasn't made money in this many years, I just really still do not know who in here needs MARTA. And thank God, I think it would be great. I love going up north. I love going to New York City. I met Hilda earlier, and we were talking about, I love going up to New York and New Jersey. I love the fact that I can get on a train, I can get on some kind of transportation, I can go from one place to another. But who in here would agree there's a lot greater density of population there than there is here? And no offense to anybody who wants this to become New York City. It ain't ever going to have that amount of population, and it's never going to pay for itself, and it's never going to work, which is exactly what I told the DOT guy, because I told him then, I said, this is a foolish errand, and it's stupid. He goes, well, we just have to do something. Well, let's do something that works, that protects the taxpayer, and let's make sure that we do not enslave ourselves to further debt. Is that right? Amen. Act like you're in church. Give me a good amen. All right. So I challenge and I encourage you, vote no to T-SPLOST, but do something else. Let people know. Let people know, because the way it's worded on the ballot, I disagree with. It sounds very, very lucrative and good, and it is not what it proposes to be. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our last speaker is on his way. He'll be here momentarily. We have private solutions and private enterprise in place, bus between Athens and Atlanta. The private healthcare,
the Medicare part for patients.
Medicare and Medicaid, both.
So all of this is already in place and working and not costing the taxpayers any money, and yet they want us to think that it is a crisis going on that we have to remedy quickly. Now, for those of you that do know me, you know that I'm a big fair tax advocate. And one of the things that I happen to notice about the T-SPLOST is the fact that it is going to be a tax that will fund projects somewhat up to the 10-year limit. And then, since they're not fully complete yet, that's going to be, well, we just need another 10 years of your money. It's a tax that will never go away, just like the toll booths on 400. And to those people that you happen to talk to that are dead set to vote for it. I guess the last trick in your bag of tricks to talk to them about is, if you like the IRS, you're going to love the T-SPLOST. It's the tax that keeps on taking. I said that right. Garvin, has our last speaker shown up yet? The other part that I did want to make sure that, I need to stress this again. The T-SPLOST signs that we have here today, make sure you take one with you. Then you have a couple more things you guys have to do. On the 16th, here in Rockdale, at the corner market at Flat Shoals and Parker Road, from 5 to 7, the Chamber of Commerce, the ones that support the T-SPLOST, are going to be hosting a candidate meet and greet. Since that is in the city limits, you might as well just be out there. You don't need a permit.
That's right.
Just be out there with your no T-SPLOST signs on the sidewalks and let them know where you are on voting no for the T-SPLOST.
Do we have to stay on the sidewalk? Can we go here?
Well, just stay out the street.
I mean, can we go into the meeting?
If they rented the spot, they have the jurisdiction of that particular spot, but you can certainly surround them, just like Glenn Beck said. Now the other part is, I want those of you that are still working, put in for a vacation day on July 31st. And the reason is I'd like all of you, at least 1 to 2 people per day, marching 150 feet away from each of your polling precincts, holding your no T-SPLOST sign. There are so many people here that I have talked to that have no idea that the ballot is even up for a vote. And all they're going to do is simply see the preamble that's on there that says creates jobs and improves traffic, and they think they're voting for something nice. That preamble, which was put on the ballot by who knows, we believe it was the roundtable folks. The governor may have had a hand in it. However, Brian Kemp did have to approve it, and he has been under fire for having that preamble on there when the preamble itself has already been proven to be false. So what I want to make sure you other guys, what we do is if you begin to hear the Secretary of State's office saying, well, the preamble should not have been there in the first place, and we're going to redo the vote, I want everyone here to march on Atlanta and say, you're going to keep the vote the way it is, because we voted once, we've shot it down, and you're not going to get a second chance. Garvin?
He's parking.
Well, tell them to walk faster. Our last speaker is going to be Democrat candidate Brian Jenkins to wrap this up for the day. Now Josie started it, and I'd like to hear just to see how effective you guys are. When you guys begin to chant, no T-SPLOST. Are you ready? No T-SPLOST.
No.
T-SPLOST. No T-SPLOST. No T-SPLOST. All right, we're a little weak. Josie, I'm sorry I'm not as effective as you are.
She's been doing it well for a long time.
Yeah, but see, we don't have to worry about court being in session, us being too loud either. The other thing, one more reminder, this is not just a Rockdale issue. This is going on in all 159 counties in the state. If you have friends or family or co-workers or associates in any one of the 159 counties in Georgia, You tell them.
I said that wrong.
No T-SPLOST, no T-SPLOST.
He's going for the Board of Commissioners chair's position as a Democrat candidate.
Thank you very much, Don. How's everyone? Come on. I want to first thank Don and the Republican Party for doing this. Certainly it's evident that the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party work together on this issue. Why are we together on this issue? We're together on this issue simply because it's bad for Rockdale County. Why don't you move closer? Yeah, all right. Yeah, simply because he's always complaining, guys, wherever he is, right? Yeah, simply because it's bad for Rockdale County. As I said in the paper, I believe that this T-SPLOST, quite frankly, is a Ponzi scheme. And I said that simply because of the fact that they're asking Rockdale County to invest more than we get back. Look, your odds are better in Vegas. Okay, all right. And so one of the things that we have to do as a county is come together and show solidarity around this issue. It is not surprising to me that the chairman of this county is supportive of something that the county is against. That's sort of like a trend coming from this current administration. Now, Don said that I'm not up here in the campaign. How dare he say that to me? Whenever you give me a microphone, I can say whatever I want. But look, having said that, I just want to, again, thank everyone for coming together. But what is most important is for you guys to go back to your homes and get on the phone and call everyone that you know and let them know that they have to be against this. This is not good for Rockdale County. In fact, one of the things that I'd love very much to introduce is an R-SPLOST, Rockdale County SPLOST, instead of a T-SPLOST. That way we can have all the revenue right here in this county. We know what's best for Rockdale County. We don't need outsiders to come and tell us what's best for this county. We live here. We know what's best. And we must be aware of the fact that there are those who want very much to try to take advantage of what we have in Rockdale County. Guys, look, we have to come together as a community. We're all in this boat. And if there's a hole in the back of the boat, those who are in the front of the boat must go back and help repair that hole. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. We must do it together. I get sick and tired of this us against them mindset. We must change that paradigm. In fact, my mom always told me lead by example, and I've done just that. I've supported Republican candidates. I've supported across racial lines. I've done that. Why? Because I fight for what is in the best interest of Rockdale County. Don't get caught up in the Republican Party. The Republican Party can't sweep the street better than the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party can't wash a window better than the Republican Party. It isn't about who has the best ideas. It's about results. That's what it's about, results. We must come together. For example, there's Dan Ray back there. Now, Dan Ray's my tax commissioner. Did you hear what I said? He's my tax commissioner. So when Dan Ray's up for re-election, Dan Ray is my tax commissioner. Now, if it isn't broken, guys, we're not going to try to fix it if it isn't broken. Now, I thought I'd get at least one applause, Dan. Yeah. All right. Hey, Dan, maybe I ought to be on the other side. What do you think? Huh? Yeah, my goodness. Well, guys, the same as it relates to Jeff. Can't fault Jeff for crime, but we can't fault Jeff if the arrest rate was poor. It just so happens that the arrest rate is good. And so I commend Jeff and the officers here in Rockdale County. Now, I know that I'm going out on a limb, and some people say, well, gee, Brian, how can you say something like that when you're a Democrat? Yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm a sensible Democrat. I fight for that which is correct, that which is right, that which is in the best interest of Rockdale County, that which is will help us maintain the health of Rockdale County. That's what this campaign is about. And I'm asking people, and I know I'm going out on a limb, Don, but this is important. I'm asking people to go out on a limb and be a Democrat for one day. And that's on the 31st. Because I will tell you, if those of you criticize Richard Odom and talk about how bad he is, it is my belief, and I base it solely on numbers. I base it solely on numbers. It is my belief that if he's there in November, he will win again. That's my belief. And so give that some thought. You know, we must be mature when it comes to this. And I've showed that level of maturity in supporting other candidates. opposite of my race, opposite of my party. All right, so guys, listen, let's continue to fight for T-SPLOST. Let's continue to join together and have parties like this down up until the 31st so that we can make sure that everyone across Rockdale County knows that T-SPLOST is bad for Rockdale County. I want to also commend before I sit down Josie Dean. Josie Dean had a rally not far from here, right around the corner, I believe it was Monday. And Tuesday? It was Tuesday. I should know, Don, I participated in it. Yeah, it was Tuesday. And I will tell you, it was a tremendous rally. There was about over 50 people there. And we had a beautiful time. In fact, we were so raucous that the judge had to send one of the police officers out to tell Josie to put the bullhorn down. Right? So, but I will tell you guys, again, Josie, I commend you. Again, Don, I commend you. And I commend each and every one of you. I see Sam Smiley in the back, a candidate. Sam is also, I believe, in opposition to T-SPLOST. And that is what this is all about. Candidates say that they're against it. Come on out here and show your face. Come on out here. Where are you? Where are these candidates? Who, behind closed doors, they say that they're against something, but when they're unmasked, where are they? Where are they? Where are you candidates? Even those who are for it, where are you? Come on out here. Thank you very much. God bless you all. And let's come together as a county. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Brian.